Hello, everyone, and welcome to our the fourth episode of our CS:GO podcast, 808s and Beefake. I'm Jack,
I am Thom.
and butterfly knives are dead.
That's true. We thought since nothing important happened this week, we would rank our favorite knives.
Yeah, all right. So, since I am the host and I'm obviously the most important person here, I'll go first. So, so in order from best to worst, I have the vanilla bayonet, the M9 bayonet, the butterfly knife, the karambit. And from there, it's pretty much like like a sheer cliff drop off to flip, gut, bowie, falchion, huntsman, and the butt plug daggers.
I think I have a pretty similar understanding because I had the tier 1 as the M9 and the butterfly, and then tier 2 was the vanilla bayonet or the normal bayonet, and tier 3 is the karambit and the flip, and then tier 4 is just the rest is trash. I think the most notable thing though is we went through an era where the butterfly knife was very much in vogue, and recently it's kind of dropped off a bit. Unfortunately, it looks like fashion is heading towards the flip knife, which I'm not really a big fan of. I don't think it's a very timeless knife. It's a very much a knife of its era. Um, and hopefully we can get out of that phase pretty soon.
Not a big fan of the flip knife. It kind of looks like a toothpick.
It's the best of the, like, it just creeps into tier 3 for me. It's kind of the best of some of the weaker knives, I'd say.
I think like I have six knives in that trash tier. I really don't like the flip knife. It is like the best of the worst, but
Yeah.
it's still one of the worst.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't go anywhere near tier 1 or 2. Lackluster knife. Do better, Valve.
Do better. Yeah, just call up that design team. Hey folks, we're gonna need you to make the flip knife good, since everyone wants to use it.
Yeah, isn't it because like Gaben is like a huge like knife fan, which is always a good sign.
Yeah,
That so he like picks all his favorite knives to put in the game.
yeah, Gaben, like it's always a good sign when your CEO loves knives like a lot.
Just imagine going into that office for a meeting and he's like sharpening a his bayonet or something.
Hey,
He's having a performance review.
hey, Gabe, what do you think about nerfing the pistols? He's just got like a big ass bayonet on this like old timey stone grinder. Sorry, what'd you say? Nothing.
He's just like forging Excalibur as you come into the room. It's like, how'd you get a furnace? We're in the 5th floor.
All right. I think we've buried the lead enough. So obviously the biggest news of the last couple weeks was the big IEM sorry no DreamHack Masters Marseille. Yeah. It's not like ESL and DreamHack are owned by the same company, but um so as usual for how we analyze lands, we're gonna go from the team that won the event on down the list of participants on how they ranked. So first off, let's start out with Astralis, and this we're gonna call this little segment the Astralis Circle Jerk Show.
Yeah, this is a special little segment we prepared called "Let's all jerk off Astralis for an indefinite amount of time." I think the most important thing to say is that we were right.
Oh, we
Above
were
all
so
else, we
right.
were correct.
That's really all that matters is that we were right. Astralis are the best team in the world. I don't think that's up for debate. They were pretty much the only team that played elite level team Counter Strike here at this LAN. I didn't see anything that super impressed me from any other team as in terms of like the overall level of play from that team. Like obviously I thought NaVi played really well, but like that's mainly because of one guy on that team. We'll get to that later though.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of how Strauss played, you don't. It reminds me of when that phase lineup first hit that mad form because when you're looking at them after one event, you can kind of fast track them to being the best team in the world because they're clearly like a level above everyone else. Because when you look back, there were times when maybe other teams had a good hold on a map or something, but they kind of just strolled all the way there. They they didn't really seem to break a sweat at any real point. Like they were never on a deciding map where they like the one deciding map they played, they won like 16-5 against Liquid. But when looking at this was one of the most incredible team peaks I've ever seen. Like every single player was going off. They were drilled to near perfection. They were running off a core of Device, Zip, and Glaive being the main sort of starring players of this LAN. But that I'm trying to remember what that stat is, but essentially it tells you like how many times this guy goes in, gets a kill, assist, traded, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Like
it's like kill assist
Dupree's,
percentage, I think.
yeah, I think it's something like that.
Like they
It's
were all in like the
Dupree's,
80s. Like they were
yeah,
insane.
like Dupree's was off the chain, and I think that like meaning that like at least he wasn't getting the sickest rating, but he was still going ham on that, and Magisk was still nailing his role. Like the even looking now, the top players thing, it goes simple, device, electronic, and then Glaive, Zipex, Magisk, and I think Dupree's not that far off. Like at this LAN, they were just absolutely on fire.
Yeah, and I think that even if Glaive, like, because like let's be honest here, I don't think this level of form from Glaive is like sustainable. But like even if he doesn't go off, they still probably win this event relatively comfortably.
Yeah, I think it was a bit generous to give him the MVP to some regard. Like I think Device probably should have got it, but
Like
in terms of the tournament one they gave out, in the sense that you're not giving it to you're giving it to the best player on the best team as they usually go. But I kind of get it to some degree because I think Glaive, this was his system in peak form with the time to work through it, and it was absolutely incredible.
yeah, he made sick calls all tournament long, and like those guys were absolutely ready for everything the other team threw at them.
Yeah, their mid rounding was insane. Particularly on the CT side, I liked it a lot. One thing I saw is that they were very very good at giving up areas of the map and then just strengthening others in really fundamental ways, or understanding when to fight, when to fall back. Because the amount of times, the one map I noticed on a shitload was Cash against Liquid. The amount of times when Liquid would try something and then Astralis would either counter it or let them have that part of the map and take another. Like there's one part where they take mid, and so they go into like a retake setup on A, and then instantly Glaive and Device just push out of B because they've been holding the cross, know no one's sunroom, go and kill the B lurker, and then they end up going like into a 4-on-2, 4-on-3 retake, and it's just shit like that. Like it's good fundamentals, but I also think they have enough tricks and shit in each of their holds or areas that they're getting rid of that sort of, oh, they're too easy to read criticism.
Yeah, Glaive said that after the tournament that he gave his like the players on the team more input on a round by round basis. So like if Device thought I saw an advantage somewhere, Glaive said I'm open to like hearing you guys out on what they want to do in terms of like making unpredictable individual decisions. Like Magus pushed Palace a few more times than I would have liked personally, but like he still did it, and that still got them either information or it threw the other team off.
Yeah, I think it's, even if it doesn't always work, it's like there was one that first map against Navi, I think the third round, Dupree just pushes with the SMG and dies against an eco. And it's kind of good because you're conditioning them that they can't just wait. They have to respect that you can just run through and kill them. And if you keep that thought in their head, that's often really powerful because they're going to have to play things a lot safer.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that talking about like giving up map control, like I've never seen a team that comfortable giving up window room in Mirage. Like every time that they do it, I'd think, oh, they're boosting JW up and no one's in there. Like, are they covering it? And yeah, Device is sitting in a market with an op watching murder hole. Like every time, they're
It
just
was
so
even,
they're
sorry, go on.
yeah, they're just so smart about what you can and can't have, and they're always prepared for it. Like it looked like nothing threw them for a loop this tournament. They must have done so much preparation, watched all these demos on all these teams, and I really hope that like it just raises the overall level of the teams in the scene because they can't just like mill around and like knock off like an out of form phase to win a tournament anymore. They're going to have to go through a team that knows exactly what you're doing, an incredibly skilled team, but also a team that doesn't fuck up.
Yeah, I think the window thing was particularly great because they would almost always have a guy watching it, but even when they didn't, they were hyper aware of where guys could be if they gave up a part of the map. Because I remember there was that post on Reddit where JW goes through window and then jungle smoked off, so he goes into that little cubby that's kind of off to the side. And when Glaive goes back in, he checks it and kills him. People are like, "Oh, how did he get that read? How did he know?" And it's like, well, JW made noise, but also they just know that he could be there, so he checks it because they're just super aware of how to give up a part of the map and not fight for it when it's really hard to hold. Because if the guy's jumping through a smoke, it can be hard to counter that. And also, if you've got a guy just watching the mid smoke, he's kind of not doing anything. So it's not the worst idea to smoke that shit if you're a T side, just because you can be like, okay, well they're not gonna maybe their mid or jungle guy is just going to rotate over to A or something like that, and we can hit a timing or something.
It's like hearing people complain about Reddit on Glaive checking everything is so frustrating to me because the notion like this notion that Astralis are really boring, like it's so annoying because what frustrates me watching teams play Counter Strike is when they do the exact opposite of what Astralis do, and they just make really bold, unpredictable plays that like don't always work, and like they get away with it somehow, and like it's fundamentally a bad play, but then people are like, oh, you see you hit the nut shot though. It's it's really hard for me to quantify how beautiful watching really fundamental CS succeed was, I guess.
Because for me, something it often comes down to is, can you replicate this? Like, can you replicate the thing you just did there? And even looking at another team I like in G2, like looking at the stuff they would do, like that tournament they won, the last tournament they won came off of a round where SK fucking threw around, and then G2 came back and won that map and won the game. And it's like, well, you shouldn't have won this tournament. Like, you don't win this tournament if SK don't throw a map, and you don't get these ridiculous runs and kills and that sort of thing. And I think there's something beautiful about having a style of CS that is very replicatable, that's very regimented. And it's also just seeing, it's like a it's like a fucking musical performance when everything comes together in like an orchestra and stuff, because like, you can see all the fucking practice and all the work and all those hours dry running shit in servers coming together and just destroying another team.
It's really funny. Like the thing that I always think of in terms of like teams playing together is that Shocks rant or like before a game, like the like one of the best fire speeches of all time. Like play as five fingers of one hand. Like first of all, if that was off the dome, that's fucking sick. But second of all, like Shox's teams ironically haven't played like that for a while, and this Astralis team pretty much embodies that.
Yeah, because his like whole thing for like playing as the five fingers is like, if your mid dies, then you go and you kill back. It's like, great, okay, trade fragging is teamwork. Okay.
Yeah, like Shox's idea of the five fingers of one hand is like a fist. Astralis's version is just like one hand playing like a sick piano run. And I think I'd much rather hear a piano than a fist hitting a wall or a face or something.
Yeah, that was the best, like the original sort of shock screen G2. That was kind of their style, is just like just a fucking huge fist just hitting you really hard.
Over and
But
over
like,
again.
yeah, that was a great tweet. I can't remember. I think it might have been Thor who posted that, like, shocks when he figured out how to use G2. And it was just that, like, I just realized, like, if you just run through a motherfucker face, what is he gonna do?
Shouts to Marshawn Lynch, by the way. Seahawks great.
Guy. But speaking of replicatable things, the one thing I love about this team is, so they, in the big thing people are making a big deal out of is they win pistol rounds now, because in the past they had big issues, like it was like a 40 or 30% win, which is very low for a top tier team. They're good at it now, but the best part is they're a team who like fully believe in their gun rounds and will often save for them more so. Like if they aren't going to damage your economy to a decent degree or your economy's not weak, they'll just save or full save or just buy like a Deagle P250 and go for their gun rounds. Because the thing that you see throughout this whole tournament is as soon as they got their money good, as soon as they got consistent buys, they would just run teams over. Like I think it was against Liquid on not Liquid, sorry, Fnatic on Mirage. Like Fnatic were having a pretty good go at it and even had a decent lead at one point. And then as soon as Astralis got their money good, they just won like 7 rounds straight and locked Fnatic out. And
Yeah,
that's how it should be. Like you should be believing that when we have our guns, when we have our nades, we win.
yeah,
And I don't see enough teams who are fully like that.
yeah. Astralis has always been probably one of like this version of Astralis with Glaive has probably been like the sickest gun round team ever. Like they're like, and the best part about it is they're also quite good at low econ buys and winning those.
Yeah.
But they also don't do that in like a like they probably like win low econ buys in the least bullshit way, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just like okay, you just walk out Palace, hope you get a sick timing and dig 2 guys. It's often like I think I said when in Discord when we were watching it with some people, like they are one of the greatest eco teams of all time because they actually run like proper eco strats, not just like, oh, let's do this, let's all rush this together. Like it's more than just the basic plans that most teams go through. Like they're often running splits or drawing attention so they can ram in through some other place. Like they've really perfected getting the most out of like a deagle and a handful of nades, which also their nade usage of this tournament was incredibly good. Like they used HEs and smokes in more inventive ways than I've seen, like more innovative ways than I've seen out of a team for a long time. Like those HEs they would use against FaZe, where they like on that first eco round where they lost the pistol, they put like 5 nades into a window and killed 2 guys.
Oh, that was
Like that
so
shit was
fucking
great.
sick.
It's
I
just
think
a good idea.
Yeah, I think one of their best nade uses of the tournament was in the grand final when they were in a 1v3 versus Simple, who had been
Oh
winning
yeah.
clutches left and right. So Simple's down in the lower bomb site behind the silo, and um, there were 2 guys coming through ramp and 1 guy coming through that squeaky door to Simple's left. Simple knew that guy was there, and like Dupree was baiting him into taking shots there. And the second Simple looked over to the left to like aim at the door, the 2 guys ran through 2 flashes to guarantee that Simple would be blinded. And that like they waited a little bit while he was full blind, and Dupree like came out and killed them.
Yeah, that shit was great. Like, because they threw like a flash that popped like either side of the silo, so if he was on either side of that back part of the site, looking in either direction other than directly straight into a corner or wall, he's full blind. And then yeah, they just all peek him, and it's like that was the most obvious way to see that quality they have, where it's like they are unreal at shutting down star players. Like I have some stats that we'll get into sort of later on those teams, but they when you and it's not even just star players, it's often superstar players. Like they will take your best player and make him a non-factor a lot of the time because like Crims and Nico were having pretty fucking red hot tournaments, and
Oh,
then they play Astralis and they are non-factors. Like Crims bottom fragged for that game. Nico was like second last fragging, only Carrigan was worse than him. And then Simple still had an unreal final, but he did not really have that much of an impact on in terms of winning rounds because he was just not allowed to do so.
yeah, it was just so insane how they shut down 2 top 5 players in the world completely and made them frag like they were nothing but like really shitty in-game leaders. Like they fragged at like blade levels. It was awful.
Yeah, it's fucking unreal. Like, I think Nico got like 25 kills over 2 maps, which is just unheard of. It was something low like that. Maybe that was Crim's stats, I don't know, but it was pretty bad.
I
And
think it was
like,
Crims.
yeah, I think that might have been. And even Simple in that series, he had a fucking incredible nuke. 22 kills, and they lost 16-5 or
Oh yeah,
16-4.
like
And then on Inferno, he had a good second half, but his first half was quite quiet. Like, he didn't really do that much on the first half of Inferno, which is, as one of his team's best maps, one of his best maps. That's a huge fucking compliment to Astralis that they stopped him from really doing shit for 15 rounds.
I mean, the biggest part of that is I think the biggest part of Navi's Inferno is that they rely a lot on simple, but
Yeah.
like we'll also get into that later. I think one of the best parts about Astralis is that you really did see how just sick their players were. Like they do run this like the best part about Astralis is that they run this tactical system, but like Device, Dupree, Zipex, Magisk, they all have pretty sick aim.
Yeah, every single player had their moments. Even if, like, even the ones who like aren't, like, because I don't think Zipex is necessarily the sickest player. He's just a real genius, and he'll just win you like 2 rounds. He'll just lock you 2 rounds a game that you maybe wouldn't have won.
Like I think that
And
I think that Zipex can probably play at this level that Crims is playing at right now. Like if he gave him his own team, like they have
yeah, I
really
agree.
similar play styles and they could have similar impacts.
Yeah, I'd say Crims is definitely more that aggressive player now, like, since he's kind of reinvented himself a bit, but I think Zipex could be as good as him. Like, I think Zipex is just so fucking smart. And the way he plays is really interesting as well. Like, I was watching some games recently or just how he plays B side of overpass, and it's fantastic. Like, the way he uses smokes and flashes to isolate angles, and then like make sure that he's able to take enough fights and single out enough players that he can get like 2 or 3 kills, or he can stay in the site and steal a kill here and there, that sort of thing. Like, he's just such an intelligent player. And this was like the whole team playing at a similar level in terms of how smart the things they were doing were. Like, even like all the smirks and setups they were using were fantastic.
Yeah. Do you have anything more to say about Astralis, or do you think we should move on from here?
Yeah, I think we got most of it out, but yeah, I think that was the best. That's pretty much the best team in the world, and they're sort of nailed on to be the favorite for whatever events are coming up next until someone shows that they can play at that level. And it was exactly what we were talking about last episode, where someone had to assert themselves and be like, hey, I'm going to be the best team in the world. I'm going to win these tournaments where all these other teams are waxing and waning, and they did beyond that.
I really hope that Astralis finally like put together their era. Like most like all the all-time great rosters, I feel like had an era except
Mm,
LDLC just because they were playing during the Fnatic era.
yeah.
But I think that like even more so than right after they won E-League in Atlanta, I think that they have to assert themselves here and just dominate everyone.
Yeah, I feel like they're often one tournament away from having an era at times. Whereas this like the scene's open for them now. If you're playing at a fucking elite level right now, if you can beat this Navi team, like, I think Navi's probably, like, on form was the second best team in the world. Like, they were absolutely the best of the rest in that final, and they just over them. Like, they walked through like all the top teams at this tournament, and like they didn't even seem to break a sweat, honestly. Like, this is the time where they can get their era.
And the
And
crazy part
honestly, this might be the best they've ever been.
and the craziest part is they're just gonna get better because their worst map in the pool is now gone.
Yeah,
Like, and
and
they're getting
anyone
and they're
can play
getting back
Dust
a map
2.
that they're sick at. Like they
Yeah.
even with like we even saw them with Kierby late like because like Dust 2 wasn't gone until after
Hmm.
E-League Atlanta, but like they were
Yeah.
still really good on Dust 2, and I hope that they keep playing it.
Yeah, Na'Vi were a pretty good Dust 2 team at the time, and they were in red hot form, and they beat them on that map for map 3 of that series. And it's not even like these people who, I guess we'll get into later with the map pool discussion, these people who are like, oh, when this comes in, mouse sports are going to be so fucking sick because they were so good at Dust 2. It's like, that was a completely different lineup. What are you talking about? But this is like 4 of the 5 players are the same in this lineup. Like, I
Yeah,
think they should be very good at Dust 2, or at least, even if they like I could see them putting that in as their permaban because it's a very aim based map. It's not super reliable. Like I would never want that to be one of my best maps as a team. So you can kind of put it in as a map that you can play, but you don't have as much. Like their veto options are so fucking open for all these other tournaments coming up. It's insane.
Yeah, like I think that like at least theoretically they could probably play all 7 maps at a decent level once Cobblestone's out.
Yeah,
Because
which is
because like they didn't
fucking
even show their
insane.
train and they were totally comfortable playing against Navi in the
Yeah,
grand final. Like they left it wide open. I
yeah, and
think I think
they've
that
always been a great train team.
all right, let's switch over to Navi. Um
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fair to say that anyone with a brain thought Simple was the MVP of this tournament. He was absolutely unreal. We're gonna get into this later, but
Yeah.
he's far and away the best player in the world. I really don't think it's close between him and number two, whoever number two is, because I'm not quite sure who number two is either.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure either. To be honest, I don't know who I give it to. But that's maybe just the recency bias of Marseille talking. But I suppose we'll get into that in the simple jerk off segment as well.
Yeah, but like this team rode Simple's back all the way to the final. I feel like there were a couple games where like Electronic and Flamey really went off. Like that Nuke game against did they play Mouse Sports on Nuke? I think they did.
I think so.
But like
Yeah.
like Electronic really went off, and like Electronic was quite good this tournament for most of it at least. He was a lot better than he was like when he first joined. I think they're finally working out how to use him, which gives them a chance to win tournaments. Well, any tournament
I
that Astralis isn't at right now.
Yeah, I think Navi were quite good. Like, I think they're really played really well, to be honest, at this tournament. Because the one problem I think we had in the past is Simple often had no help, whereas at this tournament, like he had a pretty fucking good supporting cast. Like, I think Electronic had a great tournament. Like, I think he was really fucking good at this LAN. Like, this is the first time he's really stepped up and been like fucking legit. Like, Flamey was just okay. And Edward had his moments was pretty bad. But I think if you're having Electronic playing at this level and Flamey still putting in an okay tournament, that's still good. And not to mention, I think Zeus stepped up a lot after all the criticism because he had a better tournament from an individual level and he had a very good tournament from a calling level. Like I think they were making a lot of good decisions. They were doing a lot of good mid-round calls specifically. I think they showed that they can definitely, once the dust settles, be like a top 4 team, top 3. And yeah, it's kind of harsh on them and Simple that Astralis just got their shit together in such a big way because this was their tournament to win. They beat like because they 2-0'd Mouse Sports in fairly convincing fashion. Like there was OT on the second map, but you kind of always felt like they were gonna win. And who else they go through?
That'd be
Gambit,
Gambit. Like,
which yeah, Gambit have been in form, and they beat Fnatic in a series as well, which is just
pretty.
fucking legit.
Yeah. No, Navi beat some really good teams this tournament, and they just fell to like the ultimate final boss at the moment. But I kind of want to talk about one thing that gave me a big gripe on Navi, and it might be it's kind of a little nitpicky because they probably would have lost Inferno in the grand final anyways. But there were points in the grand final where Zeus and Edward, like the two worst players by far, had AKs, and Electronic and Simple, the two best players of this tournament, had like an UMP and a CZ. I think that
Yeah, it's pretty whack.
at a certain point you have to have a little bit of self-awareness, especially if you're an in-game leader and a support player, that you have to give up those guns to star players because yes, those star players are still probably really good with those weapons, but Simple's better than any player in the world using any weapon just about on like 90% of angles with an AK in his hands. Like there were times in that nuke game where he where he had a deagle, device had an op, out on outer, and he just outpeaked and just straight up like this killed device.
Yeah, I think Because I think a lot of people were seeing that and saying like, "Oh, this is fucking ridiculous. There's no reason to do this at all." And it's like, well, that's not true because there is a line of thinking behind it where what you're saying is they want to not hurt the confidence of these players and be like, if you can afford, you can have what you can afford, and you can go for the plays if you have more money, especially since you're spending a lot of time dropping ops and stuff for him. But it is a bit strange considering often on eco rounds they would buy an AK and drop it to simple, and so they could have just like they would have nothing but like a deagle or something, and he would have like an armor AK that would like raid boss him. But yeah, it's just the cons of doing that outweigh the pros, which is that like simple can actually go and get you entries and stuff at a more reliable rate than some of the other guys. There was even some round where they had AKs on everyone except for electronic and simple, and it's like those are your form players in this tournament. I don't know why you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, like for the most part though, they really did do a good job of setting up simple. Like in a lot of in a lot of T side pistol rounds, they'd raid boss him with a P250, and I really like that move right now because even though the P250 isn't like as accurate from range at getting one shot headshots like the USP is, it's still much better than the Glock. And if you're giving that to simple, you have like there are times that simple just straight up won you pistol rounds with a P250 armor. Like
Yeah.
that one that he won on the T side of Inferno against Astralis, where he just like walks into B site, headshots two people, gets construction control, and then holds off the CT push. Like that got them back in the game.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think it's because there is a question mark where you're like, okay, because I'm not saying this is how I think, but there is a point where you have to look at that team and go, we're not winning, but we're giving all our resources to simple. Is there a level where maybe we should reassess that? And it's like, well, no, he's still using them quite well. You just have to sort of examine other angles as to why they're not winning.
Yeah, because like at this point, I don't know how much more resources you can give to simple, and like have them get an even higher amount of success. I don't think there is that because they're pretty much already giving him almost as much resources as he needs. But like you still have to facilitate the other star players.
Yeah,
And
I don't think there's much more you can give to simple, honestly.
but other than that, I really hope that for Navi's sake, like they ride simple to a tournament win because like this the form that this man's in, he deserves it. Like throughout the entirety of the tournament, he had a rating of 1.57, which is unreal. Considering the competition they played, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that is a pretty like fantastic score, but yeah, it's worrying that he's maybe not going to be able to keep doing this because just not many players have ever been able to do this so consistently in terms of just be flat out the best player at a tournament regardless of whether you win it or not. And he's yeah, 2 lands in a row he's been like absolutely unreal.
And they haven't won the tournament. Like
Yeah,
that's the worst part. And I don't
no
think that
raids.
like I don't know how much like I don't think you can give Simple that much blame, considering the fact that like this tournament he just ran into a team that's just unbelievable. But like the last tournament they were in a final in, like the other nobody on that other on his team showed up. And I like it's he was like he fragged 25 plus for all three maps of that final against Mouse Sports and they still lost.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that for him he's running up against hot as fuck teams, and specifically in this Astralis final, like a team who are very, very well suited and designed to stop him from playing well. Like
Yeah,
it was kind of the ultimate. It was like the ultimate test kind of Astralis' system, where it's like the best team at shutting down stars versus the best star. How's it gonna go? Oh no, yeah, it was fine. They just won.
but more on simple. We've got a little emergency embrace debate here. For the first time in the history of the podcast, Thom and I disagree on something.
Look at that production value, though, first of all.
Yeah, that was absolutely sensational.
We
Got
go in places, we movers and shakers.
we just stop talking and then I play a YouTube clip for 15 seconds. um, but
The stop talking bit was the hardest though.
yeah. So currently, I think that this form that Simple's hitting right now is the highest peak ever in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and Thom disagrees.
Yeah, I still think the problem with this is when we talk about peaks, it's hard to measure because then you have to sort of go, how long has it been? How high is the peak? And how do we sort of figure out which one to value more? Because if we value length too much, we end up talking about like Olaf or Coldzera, or potentially Get Right. If we talk about the height of the peak, then we end up talking about like Kenny S or Shocks. Like I would still put, I think Kenny S still had the highest because I get the general feel, but like I still think it was Kenny S, especially because he didn't have like his help was nothing near what Simple has right now.
I agree. Like, I think that Simple's team really realistically should have much better results than that Kenny S Titan team. Like,
Mhm.
I don't like considering the era that Kenny S Titan team was in, where you had a really informed Fnatic, you still had LDLC, you had Virtus Pro who were better. I think NIP were still better than them at the time. Like they had
Yeah.
four teams that they realistically could not beat in order to win tournaments. And like at this moment in time, Navi only have one because they've beaten all the other teams in series. Like they've beaten FaZe in a series, they've beaten Mouse in a series, they've beaten Fnatic in a series. But one of the biggest reasons that I think that Simple has a higher peak than Kenny S in terms of just impact is like how much influence that he can have on the variety that Navi can manage their money in because Simple is better with all other weapons in the game except the op than Kenny. He's a better pistol round player. He's a better force by player with both the deagle and actually I'm not going to say the CZ because Kenny's CZ was unreal, but we also have to take into account that the CZ at the time was just was even more broken than it is now. Like he's a better rifle player by I think like a really significant margin. Like Kenny S was flirting with being a world class rifle player at his peak, but like I don't think that like flirting with world class compares to Simple right now. And like I don't want to say that their ops are comparable because Kenny S like broke the weapon. Like no one has ever used that weapon to any degree that Kenny has. Like and I think Simple's really good with the op, but there's no way that he had the impact that Kenny S had with the op.
So I think in terms of because it's hard to measure them because Kenny S is like a straight up alt player compared to a hybrid in Simple. It is a little bit like looking at like I don't know the new like fucking J. Cole album, which isn't good, but it's like saying like I wish this was a country album by like saying that his rifles aren't as good as Simple's to some degree.
But what I'm saying is
As
no, what I'm saying is the impact of like being able to not build around the most expensive weapon in the game gives Simple more opportunities to impact the game at a high level.
But I think that's more to do with skill set as opposed to the specific peak they're hitting. I get what you mean, but
But like that skill set
especially when the
ties into
team,
that skill set directly ties into how Simple can impact the game though. The fact that he's so good with every weapon means that Navi don't have to worry as much about just getting to gun rounds and like being excellent like setting up Kenny S so hard. And I think like I do agree that they set up Simple a lot before you get to that point. But like I do think that at a certain point, Simple definitely like finds frags just a little bit better with more weapons than Kenny S could.
because I'll say as well, like to some degree, like I don't know if this was why, but I think they overbought and they probably may have done that because they realized they can give Simple a Deagle or an AK and then get something out of it. Like I really think that Navi bought themselves out of some games or getting back into games at times. And I think I'm not as harsh on Kenny in that team because the team was completely built around let's get him an AWP as soon as possible. Like you get to the second round, like whoever's got the most money is full saving, so we can get Kenny that AWP. and on the other hand, the crazy thing about him having the AWP above all else was that he was doing things that you would make your riflers do, but he was doing it with an AWP. Like he would entry frag and like he would play like an entry fragger on Inferno, but with an AWP, which was absolutely like fucking insane. And also like makes me be like, Apex, what the fuck? But but like I remember watching it and like fucking yeah, Kenny would just like be running through these tight choke points and killing people with it. But yeah, it's honestly like I'm not like I definitely understand the simple idea, and I'm not even like 100% in on the Kenny argument. It's just that it's so fucking hard to quantify some of these features, like how much help they have, how long it is, how high was the peak. We're looking at the peak in like these sort of games or whatever, like because I'm just thinking of like that 50 kill game against Fnatic that he didn't even win versus how good. Also, yeah, that was the other point I was going to make, is that the crazy thing about Kenny at that peak and the way he was performing in that team is that they were pretty reliably able to beat Fnatic, which was something that no one at the time was doing. Like this was like borderline like if NaVi were able to beat Astralis in this kind of current era. And they did like a while ago, but that was when they were a new team and they didn't have time to fully get their team together yet. But like I think to some degree, it's like if they were able to beat Astralis, then I would put them on a similar. I would probably put Simple at a higher level, just because you're to a degree it's like you're getting that fucking symbolic ring of beating the elite team at the time.
But like the thing is, I don't think that Navi will probably ever beat Astralis because for one, Astralis is better than any team ever at shutting down star players and minimizing their impact. And for two, that the comparison to that Fnatic team, like Fnatic would regularly like just they would still beat teams, but like players could still go off and make it super super close. Like there was no tactical basis for them just shutting down like all time great players like that.
But to a degree, that's just any non-tactical great team, because or even most of them, like I don't think SK was very good at shutting down teams when they're at their best. Like I don't think NiP
Uh,
was super good at shutting down star players at their best.
like the biggest example of SK doing that was shutting down Simple like super hard in that grand final
Mm.
of a Cologne when he was on Liquid. Because like Simple
Yeah,
Simple didn't do dog shit that major final, and like to be
I will
honest,
say I think Liquid chirked a bit in that final. Like I don't think they showed up.
yeah, like I didn't expect them to win the final at all just because SK were so good at that tournament and that year. But like they really could have made it competitive. Like that was probably that was the worst major final ever.
Yeah, that fucking sucked. Like I was so bored.
Like I hate the Gambit Immortals grand final with all my heart, but like it was still more entertaining Counter Strike to watch than that fucking just gobsmacking.
At least the teams were bad enough at the same level compared to one team just being way better than the other.
Yeah,
Like that was probably the worst final. Like we didn't even I don't think we had a good map.
no, it was
That
blowouts
was yeah,
both
that was
maps.
trash.
But like I just think that like the ultimate factor of like the economy being so important. Like actually, the economy isn't as important in CS:GO compared to other Counter Strike games, but like it's still the defining characteristic I feel of Counter Strike, and like the fact that Simple can break that like really hard line that the economy draws in the sand as to what rounds you should win and should lose just makes like this peak one of it like I think the most incredible of all time, at least in terms of height.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
But that's what Embrace Debate's for. All right, let's move on to Fnatic, or as I like to call them, Crims and the Swede Boys, because Crims is firmly cemented himself as a top five player in the world. Like he was like the impact that he had on rounds was absolutely insane, and he doesn't even have crazy Nico Cold Zero aim.
Yeah, he was fucking nuts. Like he's like yeah, easily top 3, top 5 players in the world right now. I felt this was a good land from Fnatic. I think the problem is that like everyone's viewing them through the lens of they just won 2 tournaments. So everyone's like, okay, this, and they're like ranked second on HLTV right now. And it's like everyone's like, oh, they should be contending. But when you look at this team, they are pretty. That was a good land for what they should be, which is like a 5 to 8 ranked team who is solid, consistent, have upset potential over the better teams. Part of it came from they got a pretty favorable bracket until they ran into Astralis. Like they had Nip in the first round, who looked promising but are still a new team. But yeah, I don't know. I think they should just be pretty fucking happy. Like that team went well. Like the only issue I think as well was Lecro was pretty quiet, but I think JW was finding a good way to impact from that sort of wild card role. Flusher was decent. Golden is also a problem. Like I think he's kind of back on the line right now. Like other than that Mirage against Astralis, he was pretty horrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
I think the
surprised.
system's good, but yeah,
I,
he's in trouble.
I wouldn't be surprised if they cut Golden. Like if they do, if like he performs quite poorly at the next LAN. Like I don't know. I don't know how much Fnatic doing well at this LAN was in terms of like Golden's calling versus Crim's just like outright winning them rounds they never should have had business being in. Because like Crim's really did have an absolutely bananas impact aside from that Astralis series he played.
Yeah, because you sort of wonder like how much can they take that system and then like have apply it to someone else in game leading? Because I think Golden's system is fantastic for this team. Like I couldn't see this team doing this well playing many other styles of CS. Like it just suits this setup of players really well. So I don't know if they're gonna make a move. I wouldn't blame them at this point, or maybe give it another land if Golden's still terrible. Like maybe then you start looking and thinking like maybe we should have tried to get Dennis back, because I think Dennis would actually been fantastic for this team to
Yeah,
some degree if he's willing to lead again, because I think he's going to be great on Nip.
yeah, no, like no. I think that like Dennis is probably gonna call the way they want to play, and in terms of like that style of like that what Dennis is gonna call, adding Dennis is much better than having Golden on this team. Because like Golden can't frag to save his life. He was okay at like other tournaments, but like this tournament he was super bad. And I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that he'll be super bad in the future probably. And I think if Fnatic want to play it like a looser style where they like expect force buy win trades like they did against Astralis, uh, I don't think that Golden's the best player for that.
I don't know. I think Golden, like I think Golden before this was a pretty serviceable fragger. Like I don't think he was terrible at all. Like I think that this is a team that want fraggers, so that's why they might cut him. But I think if he can go back to what he was, like I don't think he's doomed to be terrible forever. I think that it sort of depends, and part of it might honestly be that he doesn't feel like he doesn't like
Safe.
this. Yeah, like it seems like kind of that dead team sort of thing where guys go up and down really weirdly in terms of form, where it's like he kind of like, because how often does it go well for an NBA roster when someone finds out that they were shopped or that they tried to trade them or something? Like it often doesn't last.
Yeah, if you don't have security like in your position, you're not gonna call with as much confidence. You're gonna second guess yourself, and you're definitely gonna like stress yourself out a lot in terms of like how you individually play. Like you can either be wound up so tight that you just like blow up and go off, or you can be wound up so tight that like when you start losing in the game, like you just collapse down on yourself.
At least they've been able to see that Exist wouldn't be that much of a fucking upgrade if they took him.
Oh yeah, we'll get to exist in a bit,
Yeah.
but yeah. Other than that, like Fnatic was pretty decent this LAN. They couldn't have won it, but Crims is fucking sick.
I would give Lecker a little bit of a pass for being quiet, because he plays a lot of tough roles. Particularly, they have him playing like B Mirage solo a lot, and that is a fucking really hard role, especially because their main map is Mirage, and they played Mirage in like almost every series they've played recently. But like, yeah, you really have to be an elite tier player to solo that site. Like, there's a reason why Zipex is worth his weight in gold. Like, you you can even get players who are very skilled, like especially like Lekro, who just can't do it because it's just so fucking hard, and your decision making has to be so perfect.
Yeah, like one of the weird things about B-Site Mirage is that like Kerrigan and MSL play it,
Mm.
and I think that teams like really exploit that hard.
Depends though, because I think I would rather have a smart player than a super skilled player on that site. Like I think it works better for I think it works better for those guys generally, and I think they do an okay job. But yeah, it depends because it's like you have to be at a certain level to exploit them as well. So it's not it because if everyone was running over them, then it's kind of like, oh, okay. Like if Tyler were fucking running through that B site easily, and you're kind of like, okay, you need to change something. But if it's when it's like Astralis and NaVi doing it to you guys, it's kind of can't stop it to some degree. But like, because I remember watching when Astralis played that map. Um, there was a play where I think it was Liquid or Navi or some I can't remember who it was. I think that was Fnatic, sorry. They're on a low buy and they're rushing the apps and Dupree gets up on the van, sees them, and most players they just go for a spray down and probably get three and die. But he actually hops down and then moves over and so forces them to come through and jump out of the window where they're facing a ton of angles, and those angles also have Zipex and Glaive in them. So, and then once they've sort of started doing that and their attention's on Zipex and Glaive, he hops back up on the van and then finishes them off, and then they don't lose anyone in the round. Like, decision making like that is so much more valuable. Like, he didn't have to do anything sick. He didn't hit any sick shots. He just made the right decisions and they win the round clean because of that. And I value that way more over like Lecker just trying to like two bullet everyone.
That's fair. But at the same time, like I think that sometimes like Kerrigan and especially MSL on that B site and Mirage like aren't super like don't make the best decisions in terms of like how they are as an individual. Just because they're worrying about other spots on the map too, what the enemy might do.
Maybe I don't know. I think Harrigan's very good at that site for his level of like for how skilled he is. Like I think he is a real pain in the ass. Like he's very good at staying alive and still having impact. Like in that series against I think it was against Astralis when he would just have it like there was one round where he had a deagle and he just kept tagging the fuck out of people and then getting away. Like I think he's quite good. MSL, which we'll get into later, like I think there's more problems on that team than like how he plays some of the like sites like that. Like I don't think he's terrible at it, but I don't know, you kind of have to put him somewhere. I prefer him there than like where plays like jungle
Oh
and
God.
Jay play Blade plays like jungle and mid a lot of the time, and like teams will just fucking abuse the fuck out of that. Like I still remember Liquid doing that and that major qualifier, and then losing because then Electronic went fucking nuclear. But like they just kept going, they kept boosting window, kept going jungle because they knew Blade was there and it was a free kill.
All right. Do we have anything more to say about Fnatic then?
Nah, just yeah, good job guys, keep it up.
All
Live,
right.
laugh, laugh.
All right. So on the dock, I named this team Garbage because that's what I think they
Oh
are.
yeah.
The final semifinalist of this tournament was Gambit. I think they got, for starters, they got a really easy road to the semifinals. Um, they had to beat Cloud9 to get there, and Cloud9 have a new in-game leader. Like they still have this whole thing about them with is Skadoodle in the team, is he not? And like he's finally like in the team now. But like I think that after this tournament it's gonna be really tentative. Um, but yeah, Gambit kind of just like they like their players are were pretty informed. Like Hobbit and Adren looks pretty good for a lot of this tournament.
Yeah, that's the most promising thing is those two guys look great, but like yeah, I think they just kind of it was disappointing from Cloud9 to lose it because they lost in OT to Gambit and then trained Gambit just rolled. Um I every time I watch them or every time I see the next game coming up as Gambit, I'm just like because I don't care for this team. Like and I was happy to see that they just kind of got strolled over by Navi eventually, but I just think they just play super loose and hope that shit works. I don't think they do anything particularly intelligent or particularly smart as a team. Like sometimes their players will make intelligent plays, like because that's just what you get from like Hobbit and Adren and to some degree Doja. But yeah, I don't think they're anything special. Like my theory is that this came because they're a dead team. Like I think they're going to make a roster move pretty soon, and this tournament to me like completely looked like when you see a dead team just get like a good running because they don't give a fuck anymore and they're just playing for themselves and having fun again. Like they're not really thinking about like, oh my god, I'm stuck in this team. I got a fucking 18 months left on this contract. Kill me.
Yeah, like they actually Gambit probably have one of the best dead team runs of all time because they beat Astralis and won a major.
Yeah, whenever this team are dead, that's when they're the best. Like as soon as they get stability to their roster, they fucking suck.
But like there were like another stat that they threw around was C's CT rating versus T rating. Like he was really good on CT side, but he was just absolutely dog shit on T side. Like he had like a .49 rating on T side. Like and like there were times, especially on train, where like he would just like lock down that ladder room e-box area on a site. I was like, how the fuck has C's done this? Like I thought he was mind broken from from in-game leading in Navi, and he's in-game leading again.
Yeah, if they like made the final this land, I was gonna be so fucking tilted that like an awful in-game leader who's in awful form and a team that plays pretty awful and are in bad form coming together somehow works because that just means that this game fucking sucks. That just means that we should just wrap it up because any like you can just randomly add together parts and win. Like you can't even analyze that. You can't even analyze like adding two shit things together and you get a good team. Like I don't know.
Yeah, much like watching Gambit, I want to talk about them for as little as possible. So let's move on to a more interesting team. Let's move on to FaZe because there are some things that we have to talk about with this team. They got shit canned by Astralis, and they didn't even win their group.
Yeah, this was pretty fucking bad. Like this was a pretty rough results for them. I'll go a little easy on them because the team they got banged out by was Astralis, and they still had a pretty good go at that Mirage map until Astralis sort of got composed and then just smashed it out. The big issue I think is getting toured by C9. Like that's a really big tell because that's a new team, and though C9 did look like pretty good in some regards, getting toured by them is not really good enough for FaZe. The only wins they have is a best of one on MV and a best of three on MV, and MV are fucking trash. Like I don't think it means anything to beat MV, but yeah, I would have personally liked to see them get a more winnable series in the quarters so we could see what they could more so be like, but
Yeah,
I
like
don't know. Maybe this happens.
if they played like Mouse Sports or something, like that would have been like at least an interesting series to see how they respond after Mouse Sports beat them in the last final. But
Yeah.
I think that like they're gonna have to seriously like it's very clear that Exist is not the answer. Like Exist was quite bad this tournament. Um, I don't think that he really added much to this team. But Guardian was also kind of poor at this tournament too, especially against Astralis. Like he didn't show up at all.
I'll say like I don't think Exist was bad. I think he was like pretty middle of the pack for most of the LAN. Like I wouldn't call him the problem. Like he's definitely not the solution because the solution is like really fucking difficult with this team. But I don't think he's the problem. But yeah, you're right. Like Nico, like Guardian was pretty poor at this. Like he was pretty like well not poor, he was just like kind of at this LAN. Like Nico, I think was pretty fantastic. Like looking at his stats, it was like he went like 21-7 versus MV, like 55 kills in two maps that they dropped versus the series they lost to C9, which is good. Like 42 kills in two maps versus MV, which one of those maps was like a smash. But then yeah, we get to the Astralis game and it's 25 kills in two maps, which is terrible for a superstar. Like absolutely horrible.
Yeah, the thing is like at this point, like phases need Nico or Guardian to just have an absolute like they pretty much need Nico and Guardian both to go off at the same time in order to be a world class team. And I don't think that at this point like that's reasonable to expect like two maps out of three, especially against a team like Astralis.
I think Rain can definitely still still have those halves that he takes over, to be fair. But yeah, I think they need a good level at least from both of those guys. Like how many, like I don't think you can win if you play Mirage and in 27 rounds Nico gets 14 kills, which is because that just doesn't happen. Like that just does not happen, and it did happen, and it fucking and I think that was pretty much what doomed them, because he's such a force on Mirage for them. He'll often just like walk out of Palace and just destroy like a couple guys.
Yeah,
Like
and
if
on
he's not gonna frag, they're in real trouble.
yeah, and on CT side, like they put him connector for a reason, so he can help like lock down mid and A. Like they need that from him. They need to get the most they need to get the most impact out of Nico that they could, and they just didn't get any from him on Mirage against Astralis.
Yeah, he wasn't even able to like, because I think connector is a really hard role to lock down if you're coming at the, or sorry, it's a very, if you've got a good connector play, it's very hard for the T's to lock him down. And we saw like Nico and Crims both get locked down by Astralis, so I won't completely blame him or either of those guys, because it's obviously very fucking hard to play well going against Astralis, because they are just great at locking down star players, great at stopping the guy in that place from flourishing. But yeah, it's still, you still look at him and you say like, man, you could have done more. I'd still say it was a pretty great tournament for him though, because he was fantastic in all the games before that where his teammates were often lackluster. But I think we've still got the same issue with that team where you're looking at who do we change, and you can't change Rain Guardian or Nico, like you can't touch them. So you end up in that situation where it's like, can we get a better in-game leader than Carrigan? Can we get a guy who is going to improve us and do a better job instead of Olaf?
Yeah, are
And
we
it's,
gonna
yeah,
get
it's very rough.
yeah, like it's like the move that you always float is NBK to phase. Like after this G2 lineup inevitably
Mm.
fails, because it's coming, folks. That should be your next lock of the week. G2 will fail,
Yeah, it's true.
because that's
That
pretty.
should be the Tom's Lock of the Week.
Yeah, we should make that a segment.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, okay, yeah, we can't waste this content.
yeah, you gotta stop putting it out on Twitter though. Get people to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, can you like put tweets behind a paywall?
It's called Patreon.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, yeah. If you go to our Patreon and donate to patreon.com/anion, you'll be able to get access to. You'll be allowed to follow Tom's secret protected Twitter account, where he posts all his locks of
Yeah.
the week.
Yeah, if we reach $1,000 a month, I am willing to drop a lock of the week every 2 weeks.
All right, but realistically, like, how long can this phase lineup continue before they cut Kerrigan? Because we saw this with Astralis, where they lost faith in Kerrigan, like their results had been pretty poor, and eventually they decided to do the right thing and get a better in-game leader. But I guess the problem is how much longer like is there an in-game, like you said, is there an in-game leader that's better for this style of team?
I don't think there is. That's the issue. I think they're retarded enough to do something crazy. Like they wanted to get Shocks in for Carrigan and have him in-game lead, and it's like, oh no, did you not see what happened? Like I think they're crazy enough to bring in a star player who can in-game lead. The only guy who I think would have actually been fucking pretty decent for this team is if they got Dennis. I think that could have been a good move. Because if you're not believing in Carrigan, you just want a guy who's gonna do a loose system, you just want superstars, like Dennis seems to make sense for this team. But yeah, if I was like the GM for this team, I would try to switch out Olaf for, I would try that MBK move if I can get it to happen, or someone who's kind of a similar ish sort of level, or who can play like a similar sort of role within the team before I switch Carrigan. But yeah, I would kind of give Carrigan like that one last hurrah with this new roster move before you kind of have to realize like we don't really have a choice but to cut him because all the other parts are working.
Yeah, and I don't know if him getting cut from phase would kind of be the end of Kerrigan, because they're like MSL still has a lock on North for some reason.
Mm,
Like he might go to like Mouse Sports or something if they feel like Chris J isn't putting them over the top.
yeah.
But
The Carrigan to Mouse Sports would be a fucking great move. I would be a big fan of that.
yeah, especially since like their coach is quite good. Like he has
Yeah.
super solid tactics that he gives to mouse sports. Like obviously because that's mainly because Chris Jake like can't really read the game that well, but like
Mm.
the tactics are quite good, at least.
Because I wouldn't even replace Chris J as well. Like I would replace Sticker. I probably yeah, I'd replace Sticker honestly.
I kind of like Sicko in that team, to be honest. Like I
Like
think
I
it,
think he's okay,
yeah. Like,
but he was horrendous at this tournament. He was fucking terrible.
all right, do you just want to segue into mouse sports right now? Because they're the team I have up next.
Ooh. Yeah, let's go seamless.
All right. Yeah. Sicko was really bad at this event, and like we kind of saw the same old mouse sports that we usually come to expect of them, where like one player is a really sick series, then another player is a really sick series, and like depending on how sick that player's form is, it'll either win you the series or lose you the series. And
Yeah,
against Navi, Rops going off wasn't enough because like at times like Rops and Sunny like traded off both being like insane this tournament. Like Rops was really like sorry Sunny was really sick in the group stage, and then Rops had a really great tournament against sorry a really great series against Navi, but like that was kind of same old mouse sports, I guess.
yeah. To have a great transition from talking about Carrigan in Mouse, I have a quote from Carrigan about Mouse saying this. He said in his HLTV interview, he said, "This is the tournament. Mouse Sports has to show up and show why they're so high in the rankings. They're the team that has been together for a long time, and they've constantly been improving. They won some big tournaments and some small tournaments like Budapest, and now it's time their time to shine. If not, it's going to be very tough for them at future events, I think.
All right,
And to some degree, it's mind games. To another degree, it's super on point. Like they had to show that they deserve to be considered a tier one team, and they didn't.
and another thing, I think it's kind of a bit of deflection because look like
Oh
FaZe have
yeah,
been around.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, like FaZe after losing all those finals recently, like kind of have to prove that they're still considered a top tier team.
Hmm, yeah. And like looking back to the star point before, yeah, Rop's fucking solid. Sunny had a great LAN. Like he was very good in almost all the matches. Uh, Same thing where yeah, Oscar up and down to be like I don't like that he's billed as a top three, like a top three opera and like a guy who's like, is he a superstar talent? He's not. Like
No, he's
superstars like sorry, go on.
no, like he's not a superstar. It's so rare to have superstars in Counter Strike, and he's definitely not one.
Yeah, like because you're like, all right, so you're getting compared to Nico, Coldzera, Simple, Device, like you're getting compared to the fucking the the cream of this fucking game. You're not good enough. Like you're just not. Like this is why I do not like Oscar as this idea of a top guy because he's got a great ceiling, but he spends too much time at his floor. It's not good enough.
Yeah, the issue with Oscar is that like it's becoming very apparent that you can't build a world champ like a title contending team reliably
Mm,
around him because he's
absolutely.
not going to be a reliably superstar player. I think that Sunny and Rops are too young right now to be that
Yeah.
as well. So like it's kind of just mouse sports hoping like two or more of their players are just absolutely nuts and then they can maybe like knock off some really good teams.
It's not reliable to pray for Oscar. Like I think we're saying like at some point the odds are like Rops or Sonny's gonna grow into a superstar and you make that your guy. I just yeah, I don't like betting on this guy, especially because like I I like in my notes I had him written as overrated J, but like Chris J, he frags solid, but he doesn't make this team special. Like this team, like I've said before, you quantify all these players, add them together. That is exactly how good this team is. They are not more than the sum of their parts. No way.
Yeah.
Like he's doing, and I get why people are fucking going are bigging him up super hard. I get it, but he's doing his best in a role that's not meant for him. Like I don't think he should be the in-game leader for this team. Like I said, LMBT is providing them apparently because I've been watching some of their games and they have these like go-to set pieces every so often, and apparently yeah, it is LMBT who's like bringing those to the team. But yeah, I just don't think Chris J is good enough. Like from individual level, yeah, like I was saying, I would replace Sticko before him, but as a as an in-game leader, I just don't think that's who he's meant to be, and that's not his fault. That's just not the guy that he is. It's not the skill set he has.
I think, yeah, like I hope that like Sunny and or Rops, hopefully and like develop as like really consistent superstar players because like I think they're really fun to watch. Like they've got really sick aim.
Yeah, I think Rops is pretty much a lock. Like I really rate Sunny, but just because he's a little older, I'm not so sure. Just because, but like Rops is so young and he's so fucking good. Like it seems like one of those players where you're like, yeah, he's going to be incredible eventually. Like he just has to.
Yeah, and like Sunny reminds me of like a little bit more aggressive and not as smart Dupree. Like he gets them a lot of entries, and like I obviously that's gonna be a lot more up and down for you in terms of like superstar impact, but like he can still
Yeah,
have it.
he's a good balance though with Rops.
Yeah, exactly, because like Rob's like can lock down a bomb site. Like I know he was quite bad against like not like actually no he was pretty good at holding down B on train against NaVi. Like he had some absolutely nutter rounds. But yeah, like that's kind of it for mouse sports. They need to they need to either like start building around like their younger stars more, or they're just never gonna change. They're just gonna be this solid like top eight team, sometimes hit top four, maybe just maybe hit a final if they're hot, but they're kind of just stuck in the mud right now, especially since like Astralis are getting better, Navi are finally figuring out how to use electronic.
Yeah, it's like why you've got great pieces, you should need to be getting great results, but they're not really.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about a more interesting team now. For the first time in years, I'd say Nip are interesting.
Yeah, I like this team a lot. Like I think they'll every so often they'd have a LAN over the last couple years where they would look good because Threat would drill the fuck out of them and have them doing some interesting plays. But this is the first time where they're actually a team who you think are consistently going to be exciting, going to be interesting to see what they do. Like not going to be as much of a as a because the way they're playing you seem would be a bit inconsistent, but they're not as much of a liability as they were in the past. I think Dennis is a fantastic pickup. Like this is a team where their players are very suited to his loose style of calling, and he's also incredibly talented. And he also is like a lock for like 3 kills if they go to his side on the pistol round. Like I
Yeah,
don't know.
this
I really like this.
like
Better than exists in every way.
between him and Forrest, like this team is absolutely bananas on pistols, and I expect them to win a lot of pistol rounds. Let's just put
And
that.
Rez is fucking great on pistols too.
Yeah, like they have three really solid like three really good pistol players, and like is like it's pretty safe to say that Dennis is probably like the best pistol player of all time, kind of like
Yeah.
Edward was in 1.6.
In terms of consistently just being like fucking bananas on them, yeah, you'd have to say Dennis.
But I really like Draken, especially on train. Like I think Draken's absolutely like a slam dunk move. Like he's really coming into his own on Nip. They're finally giving good spots to oppers. Like they seem to know how to, like Dennis seems to know how to use him like well enough.
Because yeah, they could support him a little better, but they they're giving him enough like autonomy and enough uh of what he wants. It seems that he's playing quite well. The only yeah, because I like Draken a lot. Like I think he fits his team well because it's kind of good to have that guy who can be very aggressive, who's very confident, who's going to do that shit. Because you still got the other guys left who can back it up. It reminds me a bit of like JW and Fnatic, where it kind of didn't matter as much if he died because he has some great backup in the end. Draken had a pretty bad LAN, but I'm not gonna like sort of hold that against him just because it's part of the style. He's still developing his role, especially now that he's got a different in-game leader. I can't remember if it was Red. I think it was Draken who said some very positive things about about this guy in this team. It was either him or Rez, I can't remember, but essentially made some like very much like Exist wasn't right for this team. I much prefer playing with Dennis.
I think that was
Yeah,
Draken.
I think it's good. Yeah, I think it might have been. I was in one of those interview thingies, but
Yeah.
I like Draken a lot. Like, I hope he stays in this team. I would definitely wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't switch him out just because he's a bit off form. But yeah, I don't know. I just think his team's gonna has a bright future. That it's gonna keep looking more exciting.
Yeah, I also think like Get Right is like finally transitioned into the role that kind of suits him at the moment.
Yeah,
He's a lot
definitely.
more supportive. He's a lot more of a supportive player, and like he's going back to his old ways of just like winning a lot of clutches because he was really sick in clutches this tournament. It was nice to see that at least. Like I don't think he's ever
Yeah.
going to be the sick player that he was at the beginning of CS:GO, but like he's also going through some shit right now. So like I don't mind the less impactful role that he has in this team.
Yeah, because it's like even he had that clutch, 1-on-3 on train, where like against Fnatic, and it's like yeah, he didn't hit a 6 shot in that entire fucking clutch. He just made good decisions. I like him a lot as a kind of supportive player because yeah, I don't think he has the skill or maybe to some degree the drive because it's really hard to get it going at this point, but like when you've been playing at the high level for so long. But yeah, I like him in this role a lot.
I kind of like I think like Rez had a really good tournament here, right? Like I think that's pretty safe to say.
Yeah, I think he's going to be temperamental even at the best of times just because of his style. But watching the games, you could see that he had impact. Like I'm not sure how well he seemed to frag, but like I think he was pretty standout in terms of watching him blow open rounds or make like those plays where he'd get like even if it was just like getting 2 kills, but you can look back and be like they won because he did that.
Yeah, that's I think that's kind of the problem with this team moving forward is like they're the star players that they need to have to win big series like are all pretty volatile. Like Forrest in CS:GO has been relatively volatile just because his motivation waxes and wanes. Like Draken and Rez, like their styles of play are just like they're too inconsistent in order, I think, to contend at a top level all the time.
Yeah, I can see that, but then yeah, it's going to be a very all or nothing team. They're not going to be an elite team, but I think it's kind of fine to be all or nothing when you're that kind of like 5 to 8 sort of team.
Yeah, and like also Draken and Reds are still quite young, so like they still have a bit to go.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, like Nipper, like it's actually going to be fun to like, oh, Nip's playing this really good team in the quarters, and they're not going to get completely rolled over. This is going to be a fun series to watch. Like that Fnatic Nip derby was really fun.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy them now. They've got rid of a lot of the things that turned me kind of against them a bit.
Also, with Fnatic and Nip being fun again, I think it's safe to say Swedish Counter Strike is BYKE bike.
Yeah, it took a while, but they're reasonable again.
We made it, baby. All right, let's start getting into the North American teams here. Let's talk about C9 first. I want them to cut Skadoodle so bad.
Yeah, I get why they're keeping Scar. I get that, like, and it makes sense to see FNS kind of be like, let's just see what I can get out of him before we get out the checkbook for one of these other guys. But I just feel like a lot of these operas don't have the issues that Skadoodle has. Like, I think he lacks motivation. He doesn't have the consistency that you want out of a opera if you're gonna try and be like the top NA team and then push for top 5 in the world. And he spends too much time like I was saying with Oscar before, he spends too much time near his floor for to be likable. I'd take JDM over him because he's more consistent. I'd take Nifty over him because he's more exciting. I think a more driven player, more consistent. I yeah, Cirque if that was possible. I don't know if how likely that is. But yeah, I don't know. I think he had a solid game against FaZe, but overall pretty uneventful land for him. Like it just
Yeah,
seems like the obvious change to improve this team if you're making a roster move is eventually dropping Skadoodle if everything else works and you needed to improve.
On the bright side though, like Rush and Tarek in that series against FaZe were really, really good. Like Rush had a ton of impact. Like Tarek had star level performances against FaZe, and that was really nice to see.
Yeah, your star hierarchy looks pretty good in this team. If you have like Tarek and Automatic as your main two, and then Rush as your kind of more role, kind of half seas kind of guy, where he's still like playing a lot of those hard roles, but he's able to still perform at a star level reasonably. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
I like this team, man. Like, I like FNS's system. I like how he makes these players work. Like, I don't know. I think it's again like similar, and it was like, yep, this is an exciting team.
yeah. I think that I think the best comp for Rush is probably Apex, just because like Rush is skilled enough to just go off, especially on like CT side. Like him
Mm.
and Apex are like surprisingly good at CT side for like players that you think would be incredibly aggressive entry fraggers.
Yeah, and they both get that that's their best role, and they should play this and not push to kind of be like a dominant star.
Hmm.
Like that's very valuable, and I really like those players. I really like the sort of player who is talented but is willing to be like, this is my role, this is where I should be. I'll stay in my role because I know this is the best thing I can do to get wins.
As LeVar Ball would say, he stays in his lane.
Absolutely, Rush is a big baller.
Yeah, cut Skadoodle, and this team probably gets even better. Please, I beg of you.
Yeah, I'm hoping then we can get yeah, because then we can continue on this like CLG revival tour.
Yeah, except without like the two white guys no one cares about.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Uh, I kind of want to talk about Team Liquid here because like this land for them should be really disappointing, even if like they just made that roster move for Taco. Like I think they should have beaten Gambit to get out of groups and get to the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, that was a bit of a letdown. Like they looked good initially, especially when they took a map off Astralis where like it was close, but they still won Mirage against Astralis, which is really fucking hard. And some really good Mirage teams failed to do it this LAN, like FaZe and Fnatic, who both probably consider Mirage their best map, just couldn't do it against Astralis, but Liquid could. But then we get to the other two maps, and Astralis just blew them out of the water. It was like 16-4s, both of them, or something like that.
And like they played Nuke against Astralis, right? Like I don't expect them to. I don't know. They played Overpass against Astralis.
Yeah, one of Astralis's locks that you just can't
Yeah,
win.
Astralis are the best team in the world on two maps, Nuke and Overpass. And like I kind of don't think it's close against any other team. So like I don't really blame teams if they get blown the fuck out there. But like Cash isn't really Astralis' best map, and they still got blown the fuck out. I really think that they should have put like a better foot forward on Cash just to make that series more interesting.
Yeah, I think Astralis were a little oddly fantastic on that map, more so than you'd expect. Like they looked really well drilled on it, so I'll give them a little bit of a break. But yeah, they should have done more. They
Like they could
basically
just win like
blown
four or
out.
five rounds there. Like you have enough skilled players where you should bullshit like at least 7 rounds on Cash. But like that series against Gambit just they really should
Yeah,
have
that
won
was the
that.
real issues.
Like that third map they really should have won that, man. It was just
Yeah, and I mean it is a new lineup, and I'll give them a bit of a break because like I think Taco's still fitting in really well. Like Elige, Twist, and Naf like has that core of stars. Like they had their moments, but they just couldn't really add it up into anything, into good results. Like I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna like be like this team's fucked, but yeah, this was disappointing. You'd expect more. Like I expect more from them in upcoming lands, but yeah, not beating Gambit here is a big concern. Especially because Gambit were just like I was saying, he's playing very loose, kind of dead team looking CS, where they're just like, yeah, fuck it, let's see what fits.
yeah, especially when you have like three like star players who are on the verge of being world class. Like you should definitely win, even if like Hobbit and Adren are really good. Like I still think you can probably get enough impact out of that to win the map, especially since like overall they're a better team.
Mm.
But I don't know. Like I guess it's just like wait and see with this Team Liquid team.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know. I hope they get it together, but I'm not. Like I don't know. I think they're gonna be the best NA team eventually. They just have too many good pieces, and they all seem like it all seems to work out. But yeah, I was expecting them to go up more, as well as it. I think it's hurting them somewhat that NAF's cooled off, and they haven't sort of come up to meet him as a team as I expected. But yeah, I think it's just time is what they need right now with this new five.
All right, let's move on to SK. Uh, so basically everyone except Cold Zero didn't show up because Cold Zero had some pretty okay maps this tournament.
Yeah, because he wasn't the worst player on the team, but like he is the kind of player where you like an average results from him are not acceptable because the entire team is built around giving him resources usually. This was pretty concerning for them because it's like the big change was that you've lost Taco, you've lost Cold Zera's like little butler boy. Like you've and now he's gone, you can't really just go back and be like, oh fuck yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But but yeah, it's something like without his main support, he's kind of struggled here. Like he didn't really have the impact nor the frags you expect from him. The issue is that Bolts was one of the worst players at this LAN. Like he was bad. Like he was fucking horrendous against Mouse Sports in that series they got. Like getting convincingly toyed by Mouse Sports. Like I can understand losing to them for SK, but you got to beat them. Like he went 2-19 in 22 Mirage rounds. Like that's fucking terrible. Like and when I'm watching this team, like it just doesn't. It just looks so disjointed. Like Fallen and Stewie both struggled to just find form and the positioning they should be playing. Like this is a very worrying start to a stack team. Whereas we see a lot of these like star-studded teams, they just kind of off the bat they're pretty good because they're able to sometimes play loose, sometimes uh, find find their form somehow. But yeah, like all they did at this LAN was beat Valiance in a best of one, and Valiance, I think this was the game Valiance had a pretty good go at, didn't they?
Um, was this like the first round matchup for Valiance?
I think actually no, sorry, that was the Mouse Sports game. Yeah, no, they
Yeah,
smashed Valiance,
yeah.
but then yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Valiance are not good. Like, congrats, I guess. But and that was oddly enough the only game Bolts had that was good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm worried for this team if this is what you're going to look like with this lineup. I think that like cutting Bolts is right around the corner because he's been bad for quite a while now.
I just don't like the weird thing is like they've played like this SK roster has played this style that they want that they ideally should play with Stewie. Like you've done it already, you've done it with Phelps. Like you should kind of know how to set people up. And obviously that should take a little bit of time, but the players on this roster are skilled enough and you've done this before. You should know what's expected of you. And it's like to see them just come out this flat is definitely worrying.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the language, maybe it's just the new roster thing. But yeah, I expected more, didn't get it. Honestly, like they're gonna have to bounce back soon. But yeah, I don't know, man. That was disappointing as fuck.
I mean, one of the biggest problems with this team is like they're gonna be expected to do this well with all the money they spent on this. Like you can't
Yeah,
like
these are big
there's no
moves.
going back here. You got to succeed or big changes are gonna happen, my man.
Yeah, some would say that they're too big to fail, and that's why it's holding them back.
Huh? Maybe someone should write an article about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anyone, so
All right. So disappointment from SK. And then exactly what we wanted from G2.
yeah, appointment.
Yeah, they they did exactly what we wanted them to do, which is just horribly bomb out, not look good, lose, like get just absolutely shit canned by Envy.
So Here's how I put it. So they only played 2 maps, and losing to C9 in best form. Okay, yeah, that's okay. Like you're a new lineup. C9 were inconsistent, but still pretty good at times at this LAN. But losing to Envy is absolutely unacceptable. Like I have some stats here because we need to dispel this rumor that Henry G was pushing, where every time these fucking teams play, he goes like, "It's the domestic derby, and whenever G2 and Envy play, anything can happen. Rules go out the window." Form goes out the window because these players, they know each other inside and out like the back of their hand. Anything can happen. It's like, no. In their last 21 meetings, G2 have won 14 of them, and Envy have not won any LAN matches. And this is going back to like mid 2017. Like this is not like a fucking crazy domestic matchup. G2 dominate this matchup on LAN, and they honestly dominate it online as well. Like this Envy lineup should get absolutely fucking schooled by G2. They're a better team, have better players. This is not an acceptable, like, oh, sometimes this happens when you play this upset team. Like, but yeah, again, we're happy because this makes us closer to the Shoxy Dream Team. And on top of that, more questions asked, like exactly why we doubted the Mixwell pickup, right? Because like Kenny and Apex led the team, but Mixwell was awful. Like he looked fucking awful at this LAN.
Yeah, like it's just not great for G2. Like where like the only real expectation for this team I think is just like eventually NVK is gonna get kicked out. Like they might bring Shox back. I don't know. All I know is that Shox is just sitting back in that fucking sick ass suit of his on that out like in the green room just yucking it up because he knows that this thing's a ticking time bomb.
It's super telling that Kenny came out in one of the worst interviews I've ever listened to be honest. Like it was fucking a horrible job by the host, but he said like, hey, this I wanted to do the Shocks team, and like I don't know, maybe we're gonna do it, maybe we're gonna do it, like maybe it comes together. So I'm still holding out. If this team blows up, I'm gonna go do that, more or less. Like yeah, he made it very clear that he decided to do that team, which is kind of triggering because it's like if you have both your superstar players on it and you go to Ocelot and go, we want to make this team, like who do you think as like a smart owner Ocelot sides with? Like MBK, Apex and Body, or Kenny S and Shocks? Like who, like it's like you wouldn't, like if fucking on the Lakers, if Shaq and Kobe decided they wanted, like, hey, we need you to like trade these couple guys, make this move, like as if they're gonna be like, no, we gotta side with the majority of the team. I'm sorry, we're gonna ship you out of here.
Bye Shaq, have fun.
Yeah,
That's
like
actually what they did though. So
yeah, but not on the level where it's like it was a level where both like where the players wanted to be split up. Like they
yeah.
didn't necessarily want to play together. But if like I'm saying like if if Shaq and Cobra, if like we're BFFs now, we want to play this, we want you to make these trades, like you go, all right, let's at least like let's see what we can do. Like maybe I prefer this, blah blah. But the point is like you side with your two franchise players, your two like country's like iconic players.
Yeah,
You would
they're not
side with them
replaceable.
far above those guys.
Like
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, like it's just this G2 roster is even like they were even frustrating in how they broke up. That's the worst part. Like we were frustrated watching them play Counter Strike. We were frustrated how they decided to remove Shocks. But now I'm gonna like be popping popcorn into my mouth watching them just like just blow up out of lands. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with how this is going, as frustrating as they are from a pure Counter-Strike perspective.
Like verbal meme. Tom Cruise's face like faded in and out at various levels, just laughing. That's me right now.
Yeah, I get it.
Like honestly, like that the Thorin version of that meme is also quite good, but it's very niche.
Yeah, it's too niche. Like we need an accessible man like Tom Cruise.
Do you do you want to talk about Envy some? It's just kind of like, eh,
Yeah,
you
that
beat
that's
G2.
honestly
You did what we wanted.
that's honestly my notes for Envy. Like my main thing just says, could have been worse. Like they they beat a horrendous G2 and nearly won a map against FaZe, like, and then they just got smashed in the other two maps they played against FaZe. Can't really expect anything more than that. Looking at the players, the only real jump outs are like RPK and Haji. Each had a great map each, but then otherwise weren't particularly good. Scream was fucking horrendous, which is like, I don't know what the
It's not
fuck you do with
good.
this guy anymore. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Like, this guy, this should have been his time to step down, show that he can still play in tier one, but he's just like fucking, he's just wilted. He's been horrible.
Time to fire up that stream, Scream. Just start raking in that money, cause you're a very handsome man, and you're nuts and you're like the most nuts and pugs player of all time. Like
Yeah, this
what?
guy has streamer written all over him.
Yeah, I hope
It's
he does
very
it,
fun to
cause
watch.
I hope he does, cause it's like Scream is kind of like Shroud, except like Scream actually hit world class levels.
Yeah, yeah, he's like a way better Shroud, honestly. Like,
He's more handsome than
it's just, yeah.
Shroud.
Better hair, better aim. Like,
Better
yeah, I would.
personality because he has one.
That's also true. Yeah. Like, yeah, he has, for me, he has streamer written all over him. I would. That's what I would do if I was him, because he doesn't even seem that super happy playing events. Like, he's just kind of phoning it in for the paycheck. Like, if I wouldn't be surprised if Envious offered him a streaming role and he just took that shit, because he gets to stay at home. It's much more comfortable. You get the fucking good money. Like, he would rake it in as a streamer. That's the other thing. Like, he would make so much fucking cash off that shit. I guess it's got more longevity as well. But I think in terms of other teams to talk about at this line, like, the only one who I jumped out at with like feelings was Renegades.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was kind of just like, they're pretty shit.
Yeah,
Like, they're still pretty shit. Like, I don't know. Like, so they got stomped in the best one versus NaVi, close win versus Tyler, and then toured by Fnatic, where one of the maps was kind of close, but I don't know. They're just fine. Like,
like in that map that was close against Fnatic, didn't they get just like smashed at the onset and then just kind of come back into it?
yeah, it was the classic, like, nearly come back and then lose from Renegades. Only strong feelings I really have about this team is, like, I don't know how much longer they have, but the Nifty fanboys need to chill the fuck out, because people need to stop acting like he's getting tanked by this team, because he hasn't been particularly good recently.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the
people are talking like he's like this fucking NA hero who's being held down by the three Australians and this Norwegian, but it's not really the case right now.
nah. Like here's the thing though. Like if you go back and look, like Nifty had never been like a stats monster. Like he'd have
Mm.
really high impact rounds, but like he wasn't just like this opper who's like stuck in a team like Yugi who like drops like 25 kills all the time. Like that was never Nifty's game. And like the Nifty fans, like they always said that about him. Like he's like, oh, he's just this really sick opper. He's the next big one. It's like, no. In fact, an NA team went out and got some Bulgarian, and he's probably the next big one in Cirque. So maybe slow your roll there, buds.
Yeah, I would take him, like, onto, like, I'll say I would take him onto C9, but yeah, I don't think he's this, like, fucking mercurial guy right now. Like, I think he's a very useful player, very smart player, and that's what I like about him. And I think he can be consistent, because, like, this team being a bit shit isn't. I don't think I would super blame him in that case. But but yeah, I think people need to chill now. It's not a, like, a mini Kenya situation.
No, absolutely not. That's kind of all the teams I want to talk about at Marseille. However, I do want to
Mm,
talk about a team that didn't go to Marseille. That's North. So there was recently this Max Mellet article uh, on HTC called MSL Leading and Failing. Um,
yeah.
there was some like the reception of this article was pretty not favorable. Like
Yeah.
a bunch of people got really mad at the article, but like when you read it, I think a lot of the criticisms of MSL, like as an individual, are pretty fair. Like he puts himself in
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
really, really bad role for him, which is being an entry fragger. Like I understand that you're setting up your teammates like Kierby to come in behind you and like get and get like those like second man in frags, but at the same time, like if you're an entry fragger and you're always putting your team in down 4v5, that's a problem. You can't expect to have an entry fragger do absolutely nothing but get information. You like the entry fragger has to be good enough to get like one kill like at least 50% of the time.
Yeah, because the thing that had people going mad is like, so they tweeted it out with the quote, MSL is in a class of his own as one of, if not the worst players individually in the world, and is leading North into exceptionally troubled waters. And then it was like Katie and Michaelele, Rubino, and Hayes who were like reeing the fuck out, and it's like, this like thou doth protest too much. Like, because these guys are like a step above them for the most part. They're like, oh god, if they get through MSL and MSL gets cut, they're gonna go for us next, so we have to protect MSL. They're trying to stop the like the fucking first they came for existence and I said nothing. Then they came for Blade and still I said nothing. Then they came for MSL and this time I said something. Like, stop, please.
like Rubino is like he can bring something to a team, but like
Yeah.
Michaelele and Hayes pretty dog shit.
Like Hayes is playing for a fucking stream team. Like, I actually like Cadian. Like, I think he's I think Cadian's better than the chances that he gets within his own scene. But yeah, like Michaelele and Hayes, like fucking chill, dude. Like, I get why you're doing it, but chill out, man. But um yeah, there was some good fucking stats in that article, and people I think reacted really poorly to it, especially in the comments where so the quote he gave was like, on LAN over the last 6 months, players like Bialy, Apex, Kierby, and Rain all boast headshot percentages of 54%. Comparatively, MSL's headshot percentages 41% roughly equal to Zeus. And he contextualized that as an entry role sort of Fragger stat, especially and is within the context of since joining North at big events, MSL's an attempted entry percentage on par with Fur. His success rate is below that of Seized and Carrigan. So the problem is people would just be like, oh, it's just stats and he gets traded. And it's like, well, no, because there's very fucking hard. Like, look at a map like Inferno. It's very fucking hard to trade on a lot of the angles on that map. Like, if you go archers, there's a lot of angles where the CT can take a fight and then just fucking fall back. And like if MSL goes in, dies, like a lot of the time you're not going to be able to trade. Like, it's people assume that because a guy goes in first, it's smart because you're going to be able to trade that shit all the time. And I'm not a big fan of that. As well, people criticize the like headshot percentage. Oh, it doesn't mean a play is good. Like, lots of good players that have high headshot percentage. Like, that's true, but as an entry fragger, you're looking to go in and have sick aim. You need like really quick aim. You need to get quick kills, and that's where the headshots come in. Especially since you're going to be going in to like sites like Overpass B or even to some degree Overpass A, where players are going to be using head glitches. Players are going to be using like really, really tight angles. So you have to have good headshot aim. And it's like, it can't just be a huge coincidence that all these entry guys have great fucking headshot aim and he doesn't.
Yeah, another part that they mentioned in that article was like his role as an individual in the team versus Zeus's role individually in the team,
Mm.
because like they mentioned that the headshot percentage was different, and MSL isn't changing up his own role in the team, and in fact he's probably hurting his star players where he thinks he's doing them a service by like serving them like second man in frags, but in
Yeah.
reality like he would probably have more impact like throwing nades for them, setting them up better, like probably focusing more on calls, as opposed to not to say that he's a bad caller either, but like as opposed to like having to focus on like getting that kill and getting into the site.
Yeah, I think he could definitely do a better job in terms of if he's just like holding like angles or something so that or playing like a low risk role where he can get a lot of information, do a lot of interesting shit, but not necessarily be at the point where he's going to be a liability.
Yeah. I'm really I'm really concerned with North moving forward because like I still think the biggest problem is that in this team is that AZ doesn't like it's how it's organized. Like
Mm.
MSL doing entries is like really really bad, but like AZ isn't meant for the role that he's playing. He hasn't been comfortable in it ever since he's been in North. He hasn't shown any flashes of being like that incredible player. It's kind of like sticking Olaf into phase, I feel. Like except to a lesser degree than like the star power because Olaf was obviously a bigger star than AZ.
Yeah, I think in the end we boil down to this, and I agree with that. Yeah, it doesn't really fit, but it boils down to this question of is MSL the problem? And then the problem with asking that is I don't have an answer because it's kind of like yes and no because his fragging is an issue within the context of this team, but I don't think it's the biggest issue. I don't think it's an issue that can't be cured. And because I want to like I'll contextualize this point with the fact that like Valde is on an absolute tear, and I think a lot of people online are like talking about how Kirby's like you can maybe cut that guy, but Kirby's playing really well in terms of being a soldier who's aggro and is going to take up these entry roles. Like I do not think he's a problem, and I think you don't understand the game if you think that he's like a big problem on this team.
Oh no,
But
like Kirby and Valde are incredibly good on this team, and like Kirby is like showing that different dimension that he showed on Dignitas. Like in Astralis, his role was a little bit more restricted, but I think that being in Astralis helped him learn how to play quote unquote the right way, I guess. It
yeah.
helped make him a smarter player. It helped him prepare better for series, and I think that he's taking full advantage of that in this North team where he has a lot more freedom.
Yeah, I like him a lot in this team, but like I think the big issue is you have two parts of this five that are working really well, and then you have these big issues, which is yeah, AZ is useless. Mertz you've gambled on, but he's not really consistent or like ready made to be. Like it kind of looks like when you bring a guy who maybe comes out of college a year too early into the NBA or something. Like he just doesn't look ready yet. He
Yeah,
like there's a chance he will be in the future, but he just doesn't look ready. Like I think right now he's a downgrade on Cajun B, but you're downgrading with the hope that he can hit a ceiling that's higher in the future, but you don't know yet. But it's like both of these issues are through MSL's choosing. So that's the problem is it's like MSL I don't think MSL needs to be cut. I don't think he's the direct issue, but a lot of the problems with the team were stuff that he's chosen to do. Like I think if he changes his role and then he makes a move, at least just cut fucking AZ, bring in Rubino or someone, just fucking make that change. I think they get a lot better. And
but
then maybe like Mertz as well.
one of the problems is though that like MSL is a very very stubborn player historically. Like in terms of mindset,
Yeah.
he's very his way or the highway, and I don't see a world where like he better start changing his mind. Otherwise, I think Lurpus made a really good point. Like how much money is this North organization going to just keep pumping into this? Like just to have MSL kind of like make the wrong decisions in terms of how it's built, what players get in, how they play before they ultimately say, "All right, yeah, MSL, like we've given you enough chances, you're gone."
Because I think we've ended up like so because I think we talked about this before with some mates like what is the move that you make with this team, and I think we all kind of agree that like the realistic move is you actually only take like Valde and Kirby out of this team, and you end up combining them with the best of Heroic, and you give them like Rubino, Yugi, and Snappy, who I think yeah you've got a fucking fantastic AWPer, really good role player, and a very very promising in-game leader who's got a pretty good past right now and kind of deserves a shot at a better team
Hmm.
like and then MSL just goes off into the abyss for a little bit. You could also go for broke and then instead of Rubino, you take config back in. But fuck knows if people can like I guess config's baiting about signing with the European team again, but fuck knows.
Yeah.
You could bring him back again. The other thing I don't like about this team is Valde's on a tear, but I don't think Valde's meant to be the player that he's playing like. Like, I think Valde, in terms of his skill set, how fucking intelligent he is, he's meant to be. I've said this before in a couple episodes, I think, like, he's meant to be the Zipex. Like, he's meant to be the Zipex 2.0, you know? Like,
Hmm. Like
and
if you want to build like another like super sick Danish team.
yeah, yeah, like if you build around him, Kirby, I don't know, Config, Yugi, like that's a fucking really good
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, because like Config showed the ability to hard carry teams to finals. Like he did it with North. Like Config can definitely have more impact than Valde in terms
Yeah,
of
letting
like
him out of the scene fucking was a big mistake.
yeah, and now like both parties are suffering for it. Like North can't even qualify online for a fucking like sick land like this where they would have like I would have liked to see them at this land, and then Config's just stuck in
Yeah,
fucking
absolutely.
optic hell.
Yeah, I feel like Config's a bit of a fucking idiot for this, but like I can understand why he was just fucking mad at North and someone offered him a contract, so he just fucking took it because it's good, like optics, good money, and it's like a well-known org. But yeah, this is pretty fucking bad. It was a bad setup for a lot of these players.
Another thing that's not gonna go MSL's way is that Cobble's out and one of his least favorite maps, Dust 2, is in. Like
He's gonna have to play Dust Tour Cash in a lot of series now.
yeah, that's gonna be bad news bears for him, but it's gonna be good news for a few teams here. It's gonna be really good for Astralis, and it's gonna be even better for FaZe. Like I think that this like Guardian's always been a sick player on Dust 2. Like Nico's always been a sick player on Dust 2, and they finally get this and they get this map back in the pool. Like this might help them boost their level like a little bit.
As well as FaZe's ban is generally Cobble, so this is pretty big for both Astralis and FaZe are losing their auto ban. So, and it's a map that you don't have to have a particular expertise at, like something like Overpass, particularly Train, or even looking at like Cash and Mirage, which are pretty aim dual maps. Like you don't have to be an expert on this map at all compared to the other ones, so you can have it as like okay, we can play that map, but it's not gonna be our go-to. Like it's a pretty fucking good map to have as your ban, just because you can still float it and play it at a reasonable level, with much less effort. I so if I'm looking at the things, like this is great. Like I fucking hate Cobble. Like I think I think it's a stale meta. I think the sites are unbalanced. I think it's fucking boring. I think it has stupid areas like drop and plat, like that I just do not like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Cobble's
Like
been
hands down the worst map in the pool.
yeah, I hate playing Cobble online. I hate watching Cobble being played. Like I'm just so glad that this map is gone and that Dust 2 is back in because like granted like Dust 2 isn't like the greatest thing tactically, but like it really does facilitate like a ton of really sick aim plays, and I'm really excited to watch like great aim teams play on it.
I don't know, I'm pretty like meh, like I'm not that excited for it because I'm just more thinking about Cobble going out, to be honest, personally, because like for me it's like it's a reskin of Dust 2 and we're gonna see some exciting games but not like particularly great CS. Like I think some teams are gonna benefit, that'll be exciting. Like any team that has Shocks on it will benefit because he's fucking insane at cat and short.
Like
But
he's probably the best
I'm
Dust 2
yeah.
player of all time.
Yeah, I can see that. Nico as well has been fucking
Yeah,
unreal on that map. But the thing, like I said before, like some people are just going too far with it. Like the people who say like, "Oh my god, mouse sports," like it's like they're a completely fucking different team. They had like two of these players, maybe not even that, and
yeah.
when they
Like
were good on Dust 2.
we've never even seen Rops play a competitive match on Dust 2. He was
Hmm.
he had just come in when it was already going out. Like
Yeah. And we're gonna see it at IEM Sydney, and that's a problem because ESL just like fucking. I think ESL were like, how can we get more money? I know, let's have the first LAN games of the new Dust 2, like official matches.
yeah,
And that was their decision making process, not our players going to be ready, not is up teams going to be practiced up on this map? Is it going to be good CS? Because it's not going to be. It's going to be fucking crazy, and
No.
a lot of bad teams are going to float it so they can have a chance to an upset.
Yeah, like I think Astralis are probably just gonna straight up ban this at IEM Sydney, and they
Yeah, this
should.
really benefits teams who banned Cobble, but if you Cobble's one of your good maps, that you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, but like what you said about this, like IEM Sydney is like May 4th through the 6th. Like it's really soon. Teams aren't gonna have the time to prep Dust 2. Like teams don't even know how they play on this new Dust 2 anymore.
There's no meta at all.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
then like
teams are still traveling. Like teams are like Flush had that course like 4 days to learn Dust 2. Sick.
yeah, because yeah, because like there are some problems with like Air France flights getting out of
Yeah.
Marseille apparently. So like teams are kind of stuck there. Like I guess they're just gonna have to do like a mini boot camp exclusively for Dust 2, because like it's in like less than 2 weeks. This tournament
Yeah.
starts next Friday.
Because
Uh,
the BSL who works for ESL came out and said like, I mean, we had to do it. There's no good time to bring in the map, and it's like, because like we had this bunch of lands on, we have to just, so we just thought there's no reason to keep it in. It's gone. Let's just do it. No, no, no. That's fucking retarded. What you should have done is go like, okay, let's say EPL finals, which is like EPL finals like in a month.
yeah, it's May 23rd. I think it starts.
Yeah, what you should have done is like fucking say, okay, we'll play it. Like, actually, honestly, I don't think you should have had it for EPL finals because teams are qualifying a league where you've been playing Dust 2 the whole time, so it
You mean
kind of doesn't make any
Cobblestone?
fucking sense.
You mean
Oh yeah,
Cobblestone?
sorry, yeah, Cobblestone. Like, I think ACS and EPL should 100% keep it, but those should be the last lands that have it.
Hmm.
Like after that, you've had enough time and enough notice. Like, I'm fine with that. Whatever that
Blast.
land's called. Yeah,
Blast Pro
Blast.
Series.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with them doing it because they're a while away, but they should not have done it. Like, I think it's a really like obvious like ESL just wants some more money,
Yeah.
which is fine, but I don't think it's going to be that much worth it. Like, money is good, and go get paid, my people. But like, I fucking hate this call. I think it's pretty bad for the competitive integrity.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a fun month of land CS when like nobody knows how to play Dust 2.
Yeah, just even if they don't necessarily have like as a ton of time between lands to practice, just have at least a month of them knowing, hey, you're gonna have to be able to play Dust 2 by this point.
Yeah, it's just yeah. All right, let's switch over to segments. So
You
this week we're gonna do the usual nuts and pugs, where we go over the greatest and best in the realm of online CS. So we're gonna once again go dive
for
back into
Counter
the
Strike.
dive back into the fold of space soldiers, because oh my god, this is one of the worst land performances I have ever seen. They got blown the fuck out on 2 maps in a row and just got sent out the tournament at Marseille. Like like I think they played
They were
Astralis on
bad,
Inferno
yeah.
first. They won 3 rounds on Inferno or something. And then they got 14-1'd by Gambit. On like Gambit were on CC side, and they even said in the post game interview, "Hey, we have no idea what the fuck we're doing on the CT side of this map. Like we have we just changed up all our setups. We don't know what we're doing yet." And they just 14-1'd them.
Yeah, this is horrible. Like there was that like Angel just tweeted, I think, like when this happened, he's like, I don't understand how someone can be that much better online. Like this team fucking like I think that question you asked before, it's like is LAN a nerf or online a buff? It has to be to some degree LAN is a nerf
Yeah,
because
like
there's no way you can just be that good at clicking on people and playing this video game and then just be horrendous on LAN.
yeah, like there has to be some kind of code in the simulation that Anders Bloom keeps talking about, that just that just completely like breaks Space Soldier's brains. Like I don't know if they've been playing on they've been a team for like what, like, or like some of these players have been playing on LAN for like
Long
what, a
time.
year, like 2 years, something like that.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, like at this point, if you don't understand that LAN and like how you play angles on LAN and online are different yet, I think that you're just never gonna do, like, I think it's just the ultimate nerf. Like I just don't think your
Which
brain
is
is meant for LAN.
or just even just having that mental level where you just fucking don't perform, like just because it is very different playing out of the comfort of your own home, but like fuck, like they just don't look, they just look like fucking bad. They just choke like every fucking game. Like at least we talk about like chokers in the scene, it's often like, oh, they choke finals, or oh, they choke at the semis. This team just fucking chokes most of the time when they play a game against a good team. It's fucking, it's pretty horrendous. Like
Or
the only guy who's salvageable on this team I think is Xantares. Like I think I tweeted a while ago, like if I own Space Soldiers, I would hire someone whose only job is stopping Xantares from finding out about Rosetta Stone English. Like I would lobby Erdogan to like get Rosetta Stone banned somehow in Turkey, because if he gets his hands on like a copy of that shit, like this team is done.
yeah, he's gonna go to some team and actually learn, hey, I know how to play on land now, and then he'll never like remember what Turkey is again.
Yeah,
Ar-
yeah, fuck this team. Like I'm sick of this team, honestly. I don't think they're gonna blow up. Like I don't see this shit where everyone's like, yeah, no, they're it's a matter of time.
It's not a
Like
matter
I
of
really
time.
don't
They've
see
had
it.
2 years. Like they've had time. It's just never come to fruition because they
Yeah.
can't play on land. All right, let's go over to our another old standby. Please watch the podcast where we bring random topics out of the fold in order to get more people to watch the podcast.
To get people to tune in 2 hours in to listen.
All right. Hey, that's how you do it. You put all your best content at the back, so people
Yeah.
have to listen.
Front load with all that CS nonsense.
Yeah, all that garbage about like world-class lands, great teams. Then we get to the real meat and potatoes here. So for this segment of Please Watch the Podcast, uh, the NBA playoffs are going on right now. For anyone that doesn't like sports, which I assume that all of you do.
Wrong people.
Yeah, exactly, because sports are great and you should watch them. But
Yeah.
Ricky Rubio, a guy a guy who is from Spain and who famously could not shoot the basketball, dropped a triple double on the triple double king himself, Mr. Russell Westbrook. Thoughts?
I'm I famously Tom's lock of the week, the Utah Jazz to beat Oklahoma in the series, and I think they're on the way. They're on the way. I think I even said like when they traded Ricky Rubio away from the Timberwolves, I'm like, this is a bit of a risk. Um, this is a guy who I think can still get it together, especially when you've got some question marks about that Minnesota team. But yeah, I like I've been looking at those Utah Jazz jerseys and I kind of want to get one, and I'm probably gonna get Ricky Rubio if I do get one. Like I really like this guy, and I'm big on OKC. These overrated cunts bombing out of the playoffs.
Yeah, because Utah is currently up 70 to 58 on them in the third quarter.
Oh wow,
Yeah, it's good.
so
They're gonna
it's
go up.
looking
They're gonna
good.
go up 3-1. It's gonna be
This
awesome. I
this guy I work with took a bet on the winning the series because like I will give him these like takes and they almost always work. Like the loss, I think he even might have bet on Astralis to win Marseille as well.
Oh yes, the smartest bet of all time. The
Yeah.
lockiest lock of the week.
If yeah, because I think if the Jazz go up 3-1, man, like oh, I'm big on this because yeah, like to anyone who doesn't know, we are big Thunder haters,
Uh,
and it's not necessarily because of the players, but
mm,
they have. I'm trying to be generous. I like Steven Adams a lot, and I don't mind playoff P as
oh
no
stop.
one calls him.
Oh my God. Like the fact that
But
Paul George gave himself playoff P is so funny. Like the only time like, giving yourself a nickname has ever worked is when Kendrick Lamar did it, and that's because he made one of the
yeah,
greatest rap albums of all time. Like we gave him a free pass for that one, and also Kung Fu Kenny's a sick ass nickname. Playoff P kind of
yeah,
sucks.
because he was still riding off to Pimper Butterfly, like, and we're like, all right, you get one. All right, dude. Like that was fucking hilarious. Those interviews where people would say like, "What do you think of playoff P?" and they're like, "Who?" Like people on his fucking team didn't know who playoff P was. Like also that fucking great tweet by I don't know, it was one of the it might have been for the fucking Pardon My Take podcast or something. Like we examined where the playoff P nickname came from. Was it that time he got swept by the Cavs or that other time he got swept by the Cavs?
Oh my God. Listen, as a Seattle SuperSonics fan, I hate I hate Oklahoma City with all my heart. I'm so glad they've never won a championship, and I'm so glad they will never win a championship with Russell Westbrook because you can never win a championship with this guy. Like you put better players around him, and the team stays the same as if he had the same like not great role players, and also players that left him became better. Hmm.
Yeah, my favorite part is the OKC like fans who spin that shit, and they're like, "Well, actually, I see you'll find that Oladipo said that he became a better player because playing with Russell Westbrook taught him so much about what it takes to be a top NBA player." It's like, fuck off! Like he just instantly got way better as soon as he left this team. Like,
Yeah, and
and loads
even in
of players
Orlando,
do that.
like Oladipo, like the guys were like, "Oh, Oladipo's gonna be like really good here soon," and like he had no impact on Oklahoma City at all. He had scored like 15 points a game, like he was a non-factor.
Like this is honestly for you as someone who actively wants them to fail, this is a great situation for them to go into because with Russ, they will not trade him because he's like their franchise guy and they've got him a big ass contract. He will make them good and kind of fun to watch because he does fun dunks, but he will never make them good enough to win a championship. That's Tom's lock of eternity. He will never win a championship because he cannot, or he will never win a championship as the star of the team because he does not make the people around him better. He makes the players around him flat out worse.
I do want to shout out a friend of the program, Skip Bayless, with the take
Friend of the
that
show.
the Thunder would like sweep through the West and win the finals against the 76ers. Like,
He came back a bit and said they would beat everyone who isn't the Warriors, but like,
oh wait, he did?
bruh.
No, I thought he said they'd beat the Jazz in 7, the Rockets in 6 because they're weak-minded baby bitches, and then the Warriors in 7. Russ is gonna quote unquote wreck the playoffs. Yeah, buddy.
I think because yeah, I remember I think he reined it in a little bit, but like you can't, which is the coward's move. You can't go back on your hot takes.
You ride or die.
He took the coward's way out. Yeah, like, but yeah, that is a fucking huge hot take that's about to come crashing down.
Like there really is nothing like seeing like the hottest Skip Bayless takes just like flame out spectacularly.
And yeah, and
It's so fun
losing
though.
4-1 to Utah would be a rather spectacular flame.
I'm here for it though. Like the best part about this though has been watching him transition from the biggest reason that like the Thunder are gonna wreck the playoffs to Donovan Mitchell is just a really big closer. He's clutch baby. That's why they're gonna win. And like to be fair, Donovan Mitchell is a really good rookie and is like very clearly the second best rookie in the league, I
Yeah.
think. But it's just so funny. Like he tweeted tonight, Donovan Westbrook. Oh
if
man.
if my man does not give any credit to Joe Jingles Ingles, I will be fucking furious.
Ah yes, the famous school teacher Joe Ingles, who happens to be good at shooting threes. What a career.
This man single-handedly defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Skip Bayless will not give him the time of day. Fucking hack.
Oh man. All right. And that was Please Watch the Podcast. So if you're a big sports guy, consider giving this podcast a listen. All right. We actually have some new segments this week.
Ooh.
Old Simple Watch. Hashtag Old Simple Watch. So, so Simple famously, before he, I guess, rehabilitated himself, uh, was an incredibly toxic player. Like, there's just no getting around it. However, on this podcast, we are big fans of super toxic Simple. Even though it might have hindered his career, it was like the best content CS has ever made.
Yeah, it was a great era.
And Simple came back this week. So Navi were playing an online match, and Simple lost a 1v1 clutch. where someone like faked the defuse and then killed him after he peeked after like a few seconds. And someone on Twitter like added simple, never a good thing to do by the way, and said, wow, I can't believe simple, I can't believe simple like lost that clutch. All he had to do was count. And then simple straight up quote tweeted it and said, I've been playing Counter Strike for many years. How the fuck do you think I don't know how to count? He promptly deleted it, but that tweet existed, and I hope we get more old simple. Like I hope this frustration of Navi not winning any titles eventually just like allows some of that to crack through and not quite like hurt his career, but at the same time I do want this back.
Dude, because it's what happens on the internet stays on the internet, so we'll see that tweet forever. But I think actually the crazy thing is that it wasn't even a clutch that he lost, if I remember correctly. It was he like fucking like a team rushes him on the site, and like it's like essentially I think he had a teammate elsewhere, but it's like a 4-on-1 or something, and he fucking kills 3 guys, and then he like dips down, and then he like re-peaks, and then the time runs out and they win and he dies, and they're like, oh my god, he peaked too early, like he risked losing the round, and he's like, you think I don't know how to fucking count? Like, so it's like he won the fucking round off this sick play where he re-peaks to try and like fuck the guy and kill him and punish their economy more, but he doesn't quite get the kill off. But like, and he's mad, like and that this is the kind of thing I love. Like I like Mad Simple, and like different, like a couple analysts and stuff have kind of implied that behind the scenes, this facade that he puts on of being like, we have to come back and be better next time. We have to, like, it's like, we'll work hard. We will be come back stronger and are more motivated than ever before. I hope that I can help my teammates like they have helped me. It's like that shit. Apparently, that's all just like fucking PR talk, and he's like actually, like, he will actually admit behind the scenes, like, yeah, I'm fucking insane. Like, I'm the best player in the world.
Yes. Like
He
I
knows
never
it.
expected Simple to not have that mindset. Like it's like Michael Jordan. Like everyone knew
You
he was a
can't
dick
brainwash
behind the
this guy.
scenes. And like we never had that social media shit where like he could get seen anywhere. Like Michael Jordan had a lot more private time, and it was only a long time after he retired that we got these stories out, like him fucking like decking Steve Kerr in the face, him showing up to teams like the opposing team would land at Chicago, and Michael Jordan would be there with his fucking Lamborghini with a big ass cigar in his mouth, just looking at him laughing. Like he like it'd be like these stories about Michael Jordan are so good. Vince Staples stated it the best way. Like Michael Jordan is a scumbag, but he's the best scumbag.
Like, that's okay. That this actually makes a lot of sense, because we're always asking, why the fuck is Edward still in this team? I'm assuming that like recently Simple just fucking clocked him straight in the face, and they're just and the only way to make it to hush him was to keep him on that salary.
That's a good stay woke.
That explains everything. It just makes too much sense, boys.
All right. I think that's gonna do it because man, we've this is a 2 hour long podcast, and I think we need to cut it short here.
Ooh, yeah, juicy content.
All right.
You're
Let's
welcome.
let's plug ourselves on Twitter. Follow me on follow me on Twitter at Jackalope322 for the best NBA playoff takes of all time. Chris Paul's gonna win the NBA title, and I'm never gonna shut up about it.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Thom. Link in description. Link in the fucking sick podcast art I made with hours in Photoshop, definitely. For just spot on locks. If I make a lock, just bet the house on it. Fucking easy money.
Yeah, in fact, not just bet the house. Yeah, bet the house. Like literally put your house up on the
Mortgage your
mortgage.
house.
Yeah, mortgage your house on one insignificant esports bet that the esports betting site will never be able to cover.
Yeah, have never been wrong, mostly.
Like I hate doing the 60% of the time works every time quote because it's so outplayed, but like this is one of those times where if people didn't say it like way too much in middle school, it'd be funny.
9 out of 10 times I hit that, that sort of thing.
All right, that's the new one. Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. All right, bye everyone.